So this is my video quiz 3 over chapters 9 and 10. It will cover 9 first, and then I'll go on to 10, so in that order. So chapter 9 is all about delivery. It talks about how you are able to speak to the audience and the types of hand movements and gestures you want to use. It's really interesting. The key concepts of the chapter are how you speak to the audience, the volume, the tone, the body language. All of these things are really important when you're doing a speech. It gives you the option to be expressive or just be, yourself, and you don't have to be so expressive, but it does help get the point across when what you're trying to tell is something you're very passionate about. And so using hand gestures and the tone of your voice can really help get your point across to the audience and make them know that you're really passionate about what you're talking about. So something I didn't know before reading this chapter was about specific tones and how they convey emotion. I always speak in a pretty normal tone. I don't go too crazy, with the highs or lows. But when reading this chapter, I did discover that tone changes the way people view the speech you're giving. So if your speech is really sad and you've got a higher pitched tone, they may think that you don't really care about what you're saying and that you don't take it as seriously as you should. So tone is something really important when it comes to giving a speech, and knowing how to use good tone is very important in getting your point across. So why is this important to public speaking? Tone and body language and any kind of volume is the whole part of public speaking. Being able to do a good speech by using your voice and using hand motions and using any sort of body expressive voice expressions, whatever. It's how you connect with the audience, and it's how you get your point across. And so knowing how to do that really improves your speaking. It can help you be better at public speaking in general, as well as projects and classes like this one. So why is this important to everyday life? Overall, you're going to meet a lot of people in your everyday life, and knowing how to greet them with a proper tone and a volume. You don't want to go too crazy. If you meet somebody in a quiet place, you don't want to be super loud. And overall, just body language and delivery, it really says a lot about you. If you meet somebody for the first time and you're very closed off and you don't want to talk to that person, they're going to think that you are not interested in what they have to say and that you're basically shutting them out. So it's really important if you're in a public space to have a more open body language. So moving on to chapter 10, it is all about visual aids. And I love a good visual aid. I think visual aids help in any kind of presentation overall. I think they really add to it and make people get really engaged with it. So the key concepts of chapter 10 were just all about the basics of visual aids. It talks about you can use pictures, or you can use film, or an object. I know for some of my speeches I've used an object of mine from my past that really helps convey my point across, and it's really good with persuasion. It helps the audience understand exactly where you're coming from, and it helps them understand why you're giving the speech you're giving and why it's important to you. So something I didn't know before reading this chapter, if you're going to use a picture or a set of words, make sure you have good font. And if you're using like an article or a type of advertisement, it might be better to change the font on it so that people can read. Because there's nothing worse than having somebody with a visual aid that's in cursive and they're standing 10 feet away from you and it just looks like a big garbled mess. So being able to change the font on something really does help the person in the audience understand exactly what's on the picture or the article you're showing. So why is this important to public speaking? Any kind of visual aid is going to help you get your message across because people in the audience can relate with it more than they would just you standing there. I know if somebody was giving me a speech about water conservation and they had something that they could show me, like a water bottle or a graph or a chart, I would be more interested in what they were saying because it's something I can physically see, I can physically touch, and I can relate to it, rather than just somebody standing there and giving words and talking and trying to make a point across. So I think it really is important to have a visual aid if you're trying to be persuasive. And it does help overall if you do, because people will connect more with it. And so why is this important in everyday life? Overall, it is a connection factor. Having a visual aid helps you connect to anybody, really, because people relate with things that they've had or used before. And I think that visual aids really do add a whole new dimension to speeches. And I think it's a really cool thing to do, and I enjoy using them when I can. So thank you so much.